Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is Chris, also known as Piston2X. And so in today's video, I want to get into 5 companies that have some of the most VC funding out there and technically should be able to withstand the test of time, maybe a little bit better, or really a lot better than a lot of these other NFT projects that are popping up that necessarily don't have all this funding and aren't really trying to drive value, to the holders or trying to drive value for themselves, and sort of more of a long-term mindset. So the first one I'm going to get into, I actually do have a lot of their NFTs, and that's Pixel Vault. So they've got the Punks comics and the Meta Heroes going for them. And so what I like about Pixel Vault, on top of the $100 million in funding that they have, that was led by O1 Advisors and also Velvet Sea Ventures, the big thing that I like about them is they have shown that they're a real name in the space through the partnerships that they've been able to acquire. So they've got partnerships with Blur Studios, who's a big name in television and gaming. There's another gaming company that they've sort of teased. We don't really know what it is yet, but supposedly it's a gaming company that's already developed a game that is sort of pivoted and partnered with Pixel Vault to sort of rebrand it around the Meta Hero universe. And so they potentially could have a game coming out here much sooner than one would anticipate, where games usually take 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, however long it would be if you're starting from scratch. This is a game that potentially could come out much sooner because it was mostly done before they decided to pivot and maybe rebrand it around the Meta Hero universe. And then on top of that, they recently announced their Pixel Vault Sports division that has deals with the UFC and MLB. And so, and then that's not even to mention the Adidas partnership that was announced last year along with Bored Ape Yacht Club. But the point that I'm getting to is with Pixel Vault, they've got all this funding, they've got all these deals. While, yeah, a lot of people necessarily aren't happy with them right now because they're not necessarily directly driving a lot of value back to holders. That's, and it's not pumping the NFT prices, so people aren't happy because, they're buying these NFTs expecting the price to pump in the short term. And when that doesn't happen and they're down a lot of money, they're going to get mad, at the founders. However, I like to take, a much more long-term view when it comes to investing in general. If I'm buying into projects, I go into the project knowing that I plan to flip this, or I've seen enough out of the project that I'm willing to hold this for 5 years, 10 years, whatever it may be. And so Pixel Vault's one of the ones that when I bought into it early, and based on what I've seen from them, I'm willing to hold on to them for the longer term because of all this funding, the VC funding that's being pumped in, along with the partnerships that they've been able to acquire. All right, and so then going into number 4 on this list, we have Autograph. So you may have heard of Autograph, as that's the crypto company that Tom Brady retired to focus on 2 months before changing his mind and going back to the NFL. Maybe he's just seen that NFTs were just a bunch of degenerate gamblers speculating, on the future prices, and he changed his mind. But no, in all seriousness, Autograph is a platform that's co-founded by him, and this is really a way similar to NBA Top Shot to bring sports collectibles to the blockchain. And so really a lot of the different collectibles that they've put out right now is like these autograph collectibles where the athletes go and, digitally autograph, with a digital pen, and then people can buy them. So it's the same autograph that you would get with an actual physical one, but it's just, it's a digital NFT rather than like a physical card or a physical jersey. And so with them, they've got, again, $205 million of funding that's, led by Andreessen Horowitz and Kleiner Perkins. So the big VC funders out there. And so they've also got a lot of, partnerships and top tier names on their team. They're partnered with DraftKings, where they do all their marketplace deals through. They've also got, partnerships with Polygon, so they're doing this all through the Polygon blockchain to make the fees much lower, so people don't have to worry about that, and it allows more just the average person to more easily be able to get into it because they can just go and create a DraftKings account, don't have to worry about gas fees, can pay in USD. So this is something that I can see being much easier to expand to a larger population, as it's not so much just targeted for the people that are really into NFTs and in depth in Web3. And then even on their board of advisors, they got people like Tiger Woods, really all the biggest names in each sport: Tiger Woods, Usain Bolt, Wayne Gretzky, Simone Biles. So this company is the real deal. Whether they play out over the long term, whether these digital autograph assets appreciate in value remains to be seen. However, I think if you believe in Web3 long term, you believe in the whole digital economy and digital assets long term, this is one that I think is much more likely to withstand the test of time, over a lot of these just profile picture projects that are promising, merch and an amazing community. So let's move on to number 3, where we've got Improbable Worlds and Yuga Labs. So this actually could be number 1. Each of them individually, Improbable Worlds has $604 million. Yuga Labs has $450 million. So total over $1 billion of funding. And so from like projects that are released right now that have NFT assets out right now, they're actually the biggest ones when you combine the funding between the two companies. And what Improbable Worlds is they're actually the technology company that's working with Yuga Labs to develop the other side metaverse. And so Improbable Worlds, what's really unique about them is that they have this technology called M squared that really is a way to connect basically tens of thousands of people in the same metaverse, in the same virtual world, where they can socialize, play games, whatever. So up to date, we've really only seen games be able to have hundreds of players within a single metaverse. And so what's exciting about Improbable on the other side is that, you have Yuga Labs with Bored Ape Yacht Club. That's sort of the leader of the NFT space right now. But B is just, they could be the first ones to put out a metaverse that allows tens of thousands of people to be able to, interact simultaneously, all in the same metaverse. So, obviously there's still going to be a ton of risk to buying like other side lands and such. But when it comes to actually being able to deliver value to holders, they're again ones that have a ton of funding, over $1 billion. I mean, that's getting up there, not quite with like what Epic Games has funded for their metaverse that they're working on building. They've got, I think, $2 to $3 billion. But however, being the first to the space could be big for them. Again, they've got all the NFT people that are really into it. So if they could start to bring on more of the general gaming community, seeing the fun that people are having in this, it's another project that long term could be driving a lot of value and brings just more of the general population into some of their assets when it comes to other side lands or all the different NFTs that are going to come out of this metaverse. All right, so now moving on to number 2. The last couple here are a couple of sports companies or NFT projects. Number 2, everybody's heard of Dapper Labs with NBA Top Shot, NFL All Day. And so Dapper Labs with them, they've got $607 million, just the Dapper Labs in venture funding. This is led by a venture firm called Coatue that a lot of people have probably heard of. But what I like about Dapper Labs, again, sort of similar to Pixelvault, where right now everybody on Twitter seems to be hating on them. They don't like to see their assets go down in value when it comes to their NBA Top Shot moments. So, I try not to look at things in such a short-term time frame. It's only been a year. When I bought into a lot of my Top Shot moments that I hold, bought into them, being willing to hold 5-10 years. And so when it comes to Top Shot, again, it has sort of a similar story around them as Autograph, in that if you believe in Web3 and digital assets in the long term, they are sort of the pioneers of the NFT space. They really kicked off the bringing in the masses to the NFT space. And so I think, NBA Top Shot moments or even NFL All Day moments, the first ones could appreciate in value over time, as long as they're able to keep up and not sort of, lose their partnerships or somebody else come in and does things better than them and sort of take away their market share. Always being sort of that first to the market, I think, is huge. And so it's something that, with all this funding, being first, again, being able to bring in more of the general population with, everybody loves sports. a lot of people collect cards and stuff. And so as we see more of the younger generation want to collect digital assets rather than these physical trading cards, which are a pain to try and sell on eBay, we may see some of Dapper Labs and the Flow blockchain really take off in the long term. And so that's why I'm really bullish on them in the long term. Again, obviously there's still a ton of risk, as there is with any NFT project, but with so much funding and the ability to bring in the masses over the long term, definitely a company that I think has a lot of upside potential. All right, so now going on to number one, again, similar company in the sporting world here is SoRare. And so SoRare brings really what I think is one of the most exciting utilities for NFTs, where they kind of bring in the world of fantasy sports into this. A lot of people that really took off NFTs and came into NFTs that started the huge bull run in January of 2021, or sort of the beginning of 2021 when everybody came into NFTs. That was in large part driven by daily fantasy sports players and the whole daily fantasy sports industry. A lot of those people that were interested in that type of stuff were also interested in NFTs. And so I think kind of combining these two worlds, there's a lot of potential. We're seeing, online sports gambling just really take off. And so with SoRare, what they have is ways that you can own the players through these digital collectible sports cards, sort of be your own fantasy manager when it comes to like owning a fantasy soccer team through owning these collectible soccer player cards. And so again, it's like a fantasy game that has this verifiable ownership through these collectible NFTs, on the Ethereum blockchain. And so again, like Dapper Labs, with the global popularity of soccer, they have this platform that has vast potential to bring in a market of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of users that could be interested in something like this. Again, this is going to be something that more is going to play in the long term. It's not going to be something you're going to want to get into to flip. But if you actually, want to play the fantasy game, you're interested in soccer, you're interested in these collectible cards and playing this fantasy management soccer game, well, they've got the VC funding behind them. They have almost $740 million in Series B funding, led by SoftBank. So with all this funding and the partnerships they have with various leagues, including the MLB, they'll have an MLB equivalent game coming out as well. So as we've went through each of these 5 companies, as we went through the list here, you can see that my general theme with each of these is that they have long-term potential. They've got the solid backing from the venture capitalists, that money behind them to continue innovating and really driving value to where people are going to be buying into this stuff, not just because they expect the price to go up, but because there's, utility and reason to own it, rather than just, expecting to sell it at a higher price. So I hope you guys found this video informative and learned about some of the NFT projects and companies that have some of the most VC funding out there. Again, that's not necessarily going to mean that all these are going to play out in the long term. A lot of them could still fail regardless of how many hundreds of $millions of funding that they have, if the people don't like the product and they're just not able to innovate. But compared to a lot of other projects that don't have this much funding, I think these are a little bit more safer when it comes to being willing to hold on to some of their assets long term and potentially, seeing a lot more upside through the upcoming months and years. If you guys like this video and you want to see more, be sure to hit subscribe down below and also hit that like button. And then also down in the description, I've got my Twitter. Check me out on Twitter, as I post a lot of different threads with information like this, such as the top 5 most VC funded projects out there. Again, hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll catch you in the next video.